All right. I think we're going. Hope you're doing great. Welcome to another one of whatever these are. Just chatting again. I hope you were doing lovely. Here, it's Christmas Eve. Just kind of waiting to do a little bit of gift exchange stuff tomorrow. People getting kind of excited. People, meaning me and Heather, and mainly excited for our dog to be opening her presents. So that should be kind of fun. Yesterday was a good deal of baking, probably about 2.5 to 3 hours of cookies and brownies and peanut butter balls. So that was all good stuff. Nice little ways to get in the spirit of the holidays by having too much sugar. I'm sure the sweets industry is happy about that. Our teeth probably won't be, but it doesn't matter too much. Yeah, kind of what's been going on. That's really about it. Still not like a ton going on. A lot of relaxing. I guess today we can chat a little bit about stuff that I've been kind of looking into today. So this month's Human Nature, the blog I do, monthly blog I do, just about the environment and humanity's intersection with that. This will be my 12th one. It'll be my kind of year mark for doing these. I had the one I did earlier for Haiku's Day, but I do 3 things for the website. One of them is educational site content that I hit the year for that, or 12 of those pages in like November, because the first month I put 2 out there before. And that's like kind of more arbitrary, just releasing things anyways. I do that halfway through the month, but that's nothing that's like on as rigorous a schedule. That's the one that shifts if it needs to. If I need more time or something's ready ahead of time, I'll put that out there whenever. But Haiku's Day is every Tuesday, and the Human Nature posts are the last Sunday of every month. So those ones, there's a kind of a schedule baked into that, and it's easy for me to track the when it's been a year or when it's been a few months, kind of thing. But this time, having initially started the site to kind of engage people more with the planet, get them more, have content out there that's like, here's how the planet works and here's how humans like historically and currently interact with it. How are ways that we can do that today, that I can do that today as a person, to just build a better understanding of our surroundings, understand the abstractions that we have between us and the environment, and build a certain amount of care out of that. So it was really a supplement to what I had already been doing as an environmental volunteer. And I mentioned that in my first Human Nature post, but I don't think, I know I haven't, I shouldn't say I don't think, talked about volunteering and how that benefits people, or at least benefited me, and helped me put myself in a place where I'm interacting with the planet on a regular basis and with other people who also share in that interest. So I basically just split that up into three benefits. They're like really general. Usually the ones when I see other like blog posts or people talking about stuff, it's like, oh, it has all these great health benefits, or helps you lose weight, and helps you mentally, and things like that. And I'm like, I don't want to necessarily talk about those more vague type things, or at least it's hard to pin down those benefits. So I kind of instead of saying you get this one very specific benefit, it was pulling that out, zooming out a little bit, and seeing how my experience with volunteering has helped me in some ways over the past 2 years that I've been doing this. So those were the general ones were social, educational, and career. And initially I was thinking calling it building a purpose, but I ended up calling it breaking the vicarious cycle. I can kind of go over those a little bit here. So it's kind of like a preview for that, which will go up on Sunday. Right now it's just a rough outline with some things. So this might help me get some more phrases out that I want to put into the final piece of work. But that social aspect. So being around people is something that humans are we've always done that. We're a social species. The reason that we've come as far as we have is that we develop social behaviors. We work well with others from within our species. It's a part of our tool set. We do it in ways that other species on the planet don't. They can't. None of them have like a language that they use, but they can still communicate. So saying that we just do communication isn't exactly right, but the nuance that we have, the specificity that we have is pretty unique to humans. But not being in kind of that sort of social environment can be kind of bad, or at least taxing for humans. So you're able to fill that social space, and not just arbitrarily with anybody. When you choose to volunteer somewhere, you get a lot of freedom in what you're wanting to do. You're not going to give your time and effort to something that you don't care to be a part of. And the same can be said for everybody else that's there. So when you're there, you're not only interacting with other people, just arbitrarily other people. I'm interacting with other humans. You're interacting with other humans that care about something that you care about. You're all there because you want to give your time to a cause that you all believe in. So that's the kind of interesting social dynamic there. Different than, say, your family or your friends, where that's just, you have overlapping values. Maybe not so much with family. I mean, you can. But friends for sure. But this kind of goes to that standing in line culture video for a brief moment, is that you have this one specific thing in common with everybody there, and you know that when you get there. So you get to socially engage with people in a way that you might not be able to do that by going to a party or a library or a bar or something. So yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing. I found that social aspect to be very real in my volunteer experience, where I'm working with other people who care about things that I care about, and that makes interacting with them fun, and the engagement doesn't feel forced. I am not typically a person who will go out of their way to talk to people. Prior to finding out that I am okay at communicating with people, I didn't do that very often. I am very much come from an introverted lifestyle. I still do to this day. My extroversion comes at a cost. I need time to relax, re-energize. Talking with people, while I may be good at it, I can't do it for terribly long without being very tired or agitated. So I don't feel that way when I come home from volunteering, though. That socializing wasn't an endeavor. It was an enjoyment. So that kind of social aspect to volunteering is very real, at least from my experience. It might not be if you're volunteering with people who you just disagree with on some other level, or you can't connect with people just based on like kind of their personality. It doesn't matter that you're both interested in the same thing. It's just they're really difficult to work with or talk to. So that hasn't been the case with me, though. So reasons that it could not work, but in my case, these are ways that it did. Second was education and career. What's neat about volunteering is that it's kind of an echo of how people learned prior to the modern education system. So, like these days, we understand that educating our younger generations is important, and there are things that everybody agrees, or that society agrees, children should learn, and we all just unanimously agree to say that they are using their formative years to build their brain, and we put them through school to learn those general concepts, ideas, and core skill sets. Suffice to say, that's not a very old practice. Prior to that, like humanity speaking, we've been a species that has lived in civilizations for about 10,000 years, 10 to 12,000 years. And we haven't had a modern education system for a majority of that. So it's a fairly recent thing. Prior to that, you would learn how to do something you're interested in by finding somebody who's more experienced than you and apprenticing with them. And while that's not exactly what volunteering is, that's definitely not why you're doing it. It's a side effect of doing that. So you're giving your time freely to another individual or group that you have a shared interest in. You're invested in it, so you go there to do something with them. In some cases, you're going to show up and they're going to give you very specific things to do, and you're going to go do them. But since you're not like on the clock, per se, your work isn't tied to some sort of paycheck on the other side. They're not expecting you to like do that one thing the entire time. In fact, a lot of the shifts that I volunteer with, they encourage people to stop and observe and explore and ask questions. And one of the fun things about that is it's not just the new people who are going to do that. Even the more senior people are going to take those breaks or encourage the other newer people to take those breaks. And what they like to do at that time, at least with the people that I work with, is educate you. They want you, especially if you show up fairly frequently or fairly often, consistently, it's probably a better word for that. Like I don't show up often, but I show up for the shifts that I say I'm going to show up for. So that's in the summer, it's 3 times a month. No, in the summer, it's 6 times a month. And in the spring, fall, and winter, it's 2 times a month. But they see me, like they see me come back, and they're like, okay, he's actually going to be here for a while. He's committed to this. So they're invested in teaching me the ropes. Not only how to do the one specific thing that like we're doing today, but building the skills you'll need to become a leader in this space in the future, which is really cool because that's how you would learn something in the past. You didn't have a classroom in the past. You'd go find somebody, and that environment where you're doing the thing, that's the classroom. And volunteering very much allows for that, which is a fantastic benefit of doing that. It can almost be a selfish reason that you choose to give your time to a cause. If the thing that you'll be doing builds a skill that you want to build so you can get a job doing that or start a career doing that, it's a way to get professional or near professional training in something that's in a skill that you need to do something you really want to do. In ecological science, plant identification, understanding taxonomies and just how things are organized in the world, or just scientific nomenclature, that kind of stuff is very important. You need to be able to speak that language of everyone who's doing this research. And going into that, I had no idea what was going on. I knew some common names, but that's it. And I've probably had to take care of a few, just like basically two to five invasive species in the natural areas management volunteering that I do, and like doing some seed collection, maybe for 3 plants. But I can definitely identify way more than those 5 to 8 plants. So I know how to identify a number of trees local to my area. I know how to identify a ton, frankly, of Midwestern prairie plants, and even understanding how to call out a few animals when I hear sounds or find a track or something on the ground. Or see some other clue that something has been around there. So way more. I know a lot more than what I was there to do. And I would not have gotten that knowledge or experience without working with people who sort of have that experience ahead of me. If I wanted to show up and just do what I wanted to do, just don't engage in that social aspect and just keep to myself, then yeah, I probably wouldn't come away with that. But because I'm showing up as often as I do, or as consistently as I do, people want to invest in that. They find value in that they're not going to be there forever, and they want people who are going to be there consistently to know what to do for when they're not there. They're not there. I don't know, interesting phrase. But that's a key thing there. That was my number 2. And I really like that part of it. Like, I'm like not doing that big of a career shift in what I'm doing, like currently today in my personal life, but knowing more about ecological science and the terms and natural areas management, just various preservation, conservation type methodologies, things like that. That's all super helpful if I ever do want to get into that space, which I probably will at some point in my life. Just right now, I'm still in technology. So it's really helpful stuff if you've got long-term goals or want to do something different or start in a different way, or you're just starting out and you know you want to do that kind of stuff. Find some place to volunteer where, like, after you're there a few times, you're getting comfortable and people are actually teaching you the ropes of how things work. Really big benefit. Really nice. 3 was, as I said, I initially wanted to call it like finding a purpose, and that's like kind of too vague. I know a lot of these are kind of vague, where you can talk a little bit about something while you're kind of in that section of the post. But it was kind of like, I really want to do something, but I don't know what to do. So you go out there and do it, and now you've got some purpose. But that's like really vague. So to kind of get to the more of the core of what I wanted to convey is breaking a vicarious cycle. And that's probably something I'm going to have to like define vicarious, because I feel like that's a word that people can throw around and not really know what it means. But living through something. When you say you're living vicariously, you're not doing the thing. You are experiencing something through someone else. So when people usually use that, it's like not usually a positive connotation. It's like, why don't you go do that thing if you're so interested in it? Why are you living vicariously through this thing? So if the main way that you know what the rest of the world looks like is by checking out like travel vloggers all the time, then you're living vicariously through the travel vlogger. You really want to go places, but for some reason, and it could be for any number of reasons, it could be that you're not financially able to, or you don't have the resources to make that kind of a trip. You can't physically do that kind of a trip, or it could just be laziness. Like you have all the other things and you're just like, I don't really want to take that risk or do that kind of thing, or afraid for some reason to do that kind of thing. Then you're experiencing something via somebody else's experience. That's what it means to be experiencing something vicariously. And that's very easy to do these days in our internet connected world. It's very easy to not try things when you can very easily get an idea for what it's like by watching somebody else do it or listening to somebody else's experience. But what that doesn't do, what you don't get to take away from that, is your own stories and experience. Even if you agree with a particular person that you follow online, and you like that person and generally like their opinions on things and you tend to agree with them, it's no guarantee that they're going to see that one thing the same way that you would see it. By agreeing with them wholeheartedly on things that you are very much interested and want to do, and use that as a stand-in for not doing it or for doing it, then like you're kind of missing out a little bit. And volunteering, while it definitely doesn't let you do like a lot of crazy stuff, like I can't think of volunteering where you would do like parachuting out of an airplane. That probably won't happen unless they need somebody to like, it'd be really weird if it was like collect air samples or something while dropping at this velocity and seeing how something changes over the course of a fall. Maybe there are people who would do that and they just want people to hold equipment on the way down. Then maybe you can find volunteer work where you can do that, where you're working with professionals who make sure that you can hold the equipment as needed and they can worry about controlling how you're all falling. So you can do that. Like an example, like personally for me, is I hadn't done kayaking before and didn't want to like pay for like any of the equipment to do that or an experience like that. So what we did was, Heather and I, was find a river cleanup, and we were able to do kayaking there. So we can work on practicing kayaking for a trip we were doing later where we would do a lot more kayaking. So by finding an environmental cleanup program or event, we were trained very quickly, but by people who knew what they were doing, how to, like, again, with like the second point, like if you're going to be a professional kayaker, then maybe that's something you could do. Then you just get your practice in by cleaning up rivers. Beside the point, that's something that I wanted to do, and I could see other people doing it, and I'm like, it's fun. And for the longest time, that was enough for me. But that doesn't mean that my experience kayaking would be the same as everybody else's. We're on the other side of that, and I love kayaking. I can't do it for terribly long. My hands like die, but it's an example of something I might not have done without having like a little bit of a training session, doing something in a low commitment environment. It's not terribly difficult. It was on a river in Chicago. And it was just a low commitment, low risk way to get introduced to a kind of activity that I wanted to do. I no longer had to think of or experience kayaking through other people. I could just do that. So that's an example for me where it's like there's something I want to do, and volunteering, I'm able to do something, one, for a cause that I believe in, but also do something new that I hadn't done before, or if I had done it before, not very much. Try and get better at it. So yeah, and a lot of these kind of overlap. Like the main reason that people will teach you something is because we're inherently social, and that's how we just disperse our knowledge, by seeing it as a way to try something new. You can learn something. by going there and taking advantage of people who are taking advantage of those resources, the people with knowledge. You can learn to do something or do an activity that you might not have done before. And you might also, and just being able to do that with other people makes it more engaging. You get more people to learn with and learn from. So it's like all those kind of overlap with each other, but these were all things that came out of me volunteering that people should probably see as a benefit. Like when I think of volunteering, or when I thought of volunteering in the past, prior to being a regular volunteer, it's always framed as this idea that you're giving your time and effort freely. You're not getting anything in return. And that isn't really true. It's never been that way. You're always getting something. It's just whether or not you value the things you're getting. And I think a lot of us do value it. At least as a species, we inherently value some of these things. Just those social aspects are things that we thrive on as humans. But just the societies that we built, the culmination of where we've come as a species, learning things from experienced people, and actually just living life, doing new things, building experiences, and telling our story. Those are things that volunteering gives you. You don't get a paycheck, but you kind of get a fuller life experience, which is pretty awesome. But that's been talking for a while. Okay, I was looking at the timer. It's like down there on my screen. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been researching, been thinking about over the course of this month, but just sat down to actually put together an outline today. I'll be writing that over the course of the next couple of days and get that out there this Sunday. I think I start working on a newsletter again. That'll be fun. I enjoyed putting together a newsletter last month, so I'm actually not too concerned about that. But yeah, this has been kind of long enough for two days. And I'm going to use that as an excuse not to do one tomorrow. So I'm just going to relax for the holiday. And we'll be back here on Monday. So, hope you're having a wonderful day. Hope you have if you're celebrating Christmas, a Merry Christmas and a happy holidays otherwise, and a relaxing break from whatever you're doing, regardless. And we'll call it a that. We'll catch you in the next one. See ya.